Hey guys, welcome to Founders Beta, new video interview with Dr. Nardin Samuel from Cove Sciences. Thank you so much for joining today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Eric. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
Yeah, so we're very excited to have you, and we love to hear more about your company and what it does. So take me back to the early days. Talk about your idea and how did it come about?
Yeah, for sure. So, the early days of Cove, a lot of solving a problem is having the problem yourself. And so,
Right.
when we started this company, it was really largely because of our experience, as researchers and clinicians, um, having this gap where we needed better software analytical tools to make sense of our data. So, in the research setting, we were generating tons of data from MRIs and other sort of brain sensing or brain measuring tools. But really, the gap was, how can we take this data and make sense of it? And even, go beyond publishing papers that are technical and so forth. Um, and so, there were open source tools to do this, but really there was no end to end platform. There's no gold standard. And so we actually, and when I say we, my co-founder Irene and I, we
Right.
applied for a grant to really build the software tool.
Right.
But the grant actually was focused on commercialization, and so we realized very quickly that this was a problem that not only people like us were having in our little academic
Right.
silo, but that was really something that could be expanded beyond. And having a software tool, even in the pharmaceutical sector,
Right.
would be invaluable in terms of making sense of data, if that makes sense.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So talk about the product. What exactly does it do?
Yeah, definitely. So we built an end-to-end pipeline to process pretty much any kind of time series data or live streaming of
Hmm.
physiologic function. We're focusing a lot on EEG data.
Hmm.
We've done some work on MRI as well. So EEG, for those of you who aren't familiar,
Yes.
electroencephalography, measures the electrical activity of the brain. There's some pros and cons of it in terms of the quality of data that you generate. But one of the major pros is that it's cheap and it's accessible for the most part
Right.
if you can get good devices. And so what our pipeline does is actually takes that data, does the pre-processing, and then outputs some data, additional data, process data,
Right.
clean
Right.
data out of this, and then we run this through traditional machine learning algorithms as well as some of our feature engineered pipelines in
Hmm.
a disease specific way.
Right.
Again, which is really nice because we can say, we're generating tons of data from a group of patients, but what does this mean? What are the insights from that data?
Right. Right. Very cool. So who would be like the ideal customer profile for this?
Definitely, yeah. So, initially, as I mentioned, we really wanted to build this for researchers.
Right.
But we realize that really the ideal researchers are the people that are doing research in the clinical trial setting, so in the
Right.
R&D and in the pharma setting. And so we really believe that this tool can empower and accelerate research and development, both in the private sector as well. And I think
Right.
that's where there's a lot of promise, where in the clinical trial setting, there's a need for more precise and objective endpoints of how is a drug acting on the brain, and why is a patient responding versus another patient not responding to a medication for,
Right.
say, for example, Alzheimer's.
Very cool. Yeah. So I guess my next question is more about you as a founder. So like, what were some of the challenges you faced early on to bring this idea forward?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think behind every illusion of success is a lot of failure. And so
Right.
some
Right.
of the challenges were the fact that we couldn't really even get this thing up and running initially.
Hmm.
When we first kind of started to envision what it would look like, because there were multiple pieces that we needed to piece
Right.
together.
Right.
That's on
Right.
the technical side. But the other thing as well is that we didn't really have any business background, and
Right.
so I think that was one of the main challenges, is that as academics, how can we, demonstrate that there is a market for what it is that we're doing, and that,
Right.
when we're going out there and we're presenting our product, we're saying this is so important. We need to understand the human
Right.
brain, and we need to do better in how we, process this data, but then
Mm.
like, so what, right? Like, how is
Right,
this
right,
profitable? What's the market for this? And
right,
what would the business model look like? What's the longevity of a product like this? And I think that um, part of that just takes a lot of time and experience to immerse
right,
yourself
right.
more in that market.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think that was one of the major challenges initially, but I think from every challenge comes a lot of learning as well.
Right, absolutely. So you talked about AI a little bit, but where do you see AI in your industry? Like, what does the future look like?
Yeah. So for healthcare overall, or neuro, or both.
Let's start with neuro because that's your main focus, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, there's a lot of buzz about AI, and I think a lot
Right,
of
right,
people are saying, how can we use AI to streamline our clinical processes or research and whatnot? And I think that, a lot of this has to do with the fact that it's becoming more popularized and even accessible on a granular scale.
right,
Um,
right,
but, I think implementation and use of AI is not a new thing, in
right,
even
right,
just in the research setting. But where I really see that, this could make a transformative difference is in, utilizing all of the various sources of multimodal data that we collect, from the academic side and the clinical side, and
hmm,
using that to build and iterate models for, disease prediction and
right,
categorization. And then even more kind of on the mundane side is, how can we improve even our patient pipelines and
right.
journeys in terms of documentation and managing essentially how patients communicate and interface with the healthcare system as well.
Right, right. So you managed to really build a great team around your idea, and of course, with AI, changing industries, what skills do you see, like in a AI powered society, like talent would need to tap into new opportunities?
Yeah, no, thanks, Eric. That's a really good question. I think I want to first preface this by saying the team is everything, and
Right,
you're really
right.
only you're really only as good as the team that you build. And so I'm very fortunate that we've really rallied an amazing team that's passionate about our vision and our mission
Right, right.
for the company. But I think one of the key things is diversity.
Hmm.
Diversity in experiences and skill sets, because that's also helped us a lot as well. My co-founder and I
Right,
have
right.
both very similar skills, and so
Hmm.
as we expand our team with diverse skills and experiences, that can help us fill some of the blind spots. And so that's one aspect as well. And then I think also one of the unique things about our team from a company perspective is that we bring in a significant amount of neuroscience expertise with data
Right,
science expertise as well. So
right,
interfacing those things. And so, to answer your question, I think there's obviously some need for, technical aptitude, but a lot of
right,
that can be learned. But some things that can't be learned are, resilience. As I mentioned, you fail a lot, and having
right,
that sense of company culture to persevere through some of the more difficult times,
right.
and again, work towards the mission in a very collegial and respectful fashion, so that we're as productive as possible. And
Right.
I think that's one thing I'm very fortunate for. So
Right, right, definitely. So I guess my next question would be, like, what advice do you have for founders looking to like build companies? But let's say we're talking about potential founders coming from academics. What advice do you have?
yeah, I think I think first of all, one of the main pieces of advice that I have for founders, at least on the academic side, looking to build companies, is to
Hmm.
really understand your problem. So, what
Hmm.
is, we talk a lot about this pain point. What is the pain point that you're solving? Why is this?
Right,
And I think it's important to be obsessive about, does this problem really exist? Who has this problem? Even
right,
before even thinking about the solution. Because sometimes, a lot of, I've seen a lot of people kind of work backwards where um, you have a hammer and you're trying to find a nail. And so,
right, right, right. That's
and I'm
true.
sure you've heard
That's
that
true.
expression before as
That's
well.
true.
So, being very passionate about trying to understand the problem, because that's how you're going to demonstrate, what value your solution will add to that demographic or group or business or whoever has that problem.
Right.
Um, and I think the other thing as well is to have a very clear vision, but
Hmm.
also be open to the fact that this vision can adapt, and you may have to pivot if
Right,
needed in
right,
terms of
right.
the business itself. And the last thing I'll say is that, notwithstanding other considerations like intellectual property assignment and so forth
Right.
associated with being in an academic institution, but there's a lot of infrastructural support in the academic setting. And so, here
Right.
in Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
I credit a lot of our early success to these kinds of incubators and accelerators that helped
Right.
us get
Right.
off the ground, and learn some of the really basic, even from just the language of business to
Right.
some of the,
Right.
some of the more basic things that we need to be able to
Mm-hmm.
build on and focus on and demonstrate. So,
Right.
and then the last thing I'll say is that just like, and I say this all the time about anything, whether it's medicine or
Mm-hmm.
business or otherwise, is mentorship. I think it's really important to
Mm-hmm.
get support from those who have walked in these shoes before and can
Mm-hmm.
give you honest, unbiased advice and want to see you succeed.
Right.
And that's
Right.
been, very important for me too, because I've had a lot of mentorship, but also through this company, we've been able to
Mm-hmm.
support many students and interns to kind of,
Right.
pursue their career interests as well, and gain valuable experience.
Right on. Right on. Um, yeah. Moving on to the next question. I guess this one should be really exciting. What's next with Cove?
Yeah, definitely. I'm very proud to announce that we recently graduated from the Creative Destruction Lab's AI cohort this year. Um,
Congrats on that. That's quite a prestigious program.
yes, yeah, it was one of the best experiences of my education so far. It's very educational and has helped us
Right.
a lot. But I think one of the main things that CDL really opened our eyes to is really how big we can take this.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and I think one of the next things for us, as we scale and grow the company, is to figure out, how can we actually go beyond our initial vision to iterate on our tool, expand to other indications, and
Right.
put this
Right.
into the hands of other groups that could benefit from it. And so, again, focusing on scaling and iterating product market fit on a larger level
Mm-hmm.
is one of our major areas of focus for the coming year.
Oh, very exciting. And how can the community learn more and how can the community support? If you have any ask, go for it.
Yeah, definitely. I think networking is really powerful, and I think the
Mm-hmm.
startup community and ecosystem is very powerful as well. And I think I'm always happy to get in touch anytime. If people are looking for opportunities or want connections, or
Mm-hmm.
if we can foster that, or have any ideas of groups or individuals that we can connect with, I think that would be very beneficial as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you can find us on LinkedIn, Cove Neurosciences Inc. You can get in touch
Mm-hmm.
with me on LinkedIn, and maybe Eric can link my profile.
100%.
Always happy to get in touch. And I think the other thing I always say is that community is so important. And so,
Mm-hmm.
people need to relate to others that are going through, similar things, whether it's good or
Right.
bad.
Right.
And I
Right.
think that's one of the beauties of, what you've built, Eric, in Founders
Thank
Beta,
you.
because, founders are just, sometimes you're just in the pits, but seeing that, you're
Mm-hmm.
going through this with other people, and um, it goes a long way, and I think that's very helpful. And I
Right.
feel the same for medicine. If
For
you
sure.
have good colleagues and friends that you can discuss cases with, and wins and challenges, I think that's actually what life's all about. So yeah, it's awesome what you've built, and I'm very
Yeah.
proud to be part of this community.
Yes, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Well, yeah, thanks again for taking the time and sharing the story behind Cove. And yeah, we're looking forward to your development for the rest of the year. I'm sure as you mentioned, you have a lot on the go, and we look forward to sharing this with our community and sharing your story. And looking forward to what's next. So thanks again for taking the time today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eric. It's been an absolute pleasure.